This is a demonstration of sentencing guidelines for Microsoft Windows. When we start the application, we do a quick check to see if there's any further updates to the application. So you always have the latest version, but only when you're online connected to the internet. The application is laid out with a series of indexes down the left-hand side, and these follow through the core indexes of the Magistrates Court sentencing guidelines, and those are displayed by A to Z, by page, by Act of Parliament, and by offence group. And as you scroll through these offences, you can see we have that familiar colour on the right-hand side of the spine that reflects what you would have inside the A4 folder. So, for example, just down into motoring, and you can see it's that pinky burgundy colour. We also have explanatory material. We have dangerous offenders, CPS legal guidance, and then through into pronouncements, all the adult through family, youth, and Welsh pronouncements, the bench books, and the bench books include adult, family, youth, Crown, and companion to Crown Court. We also give you all of the definitive additional guidelines, give you some information on probation, and these are the items that are given to our defendant when they have a community order, whatever the particular requirement is. And we have history and favourites. Now, favourites is the key part of the application. As we go through preparing for a court sitting, using our court listing, we can identify offences in the order that we're expecting to see them presented in court. So perhaps we have a fray first in an early first hearing, followed by ABH, followed by antisocial breach of community order, and so on and so forth. So as we're making favourite with the yellow star, these are being added to my list of favourites, and they're added in the order that you make them favourites. So if I jump back to my indexes and select another offence or two, you can see these then added down into favourites in the order that we've selected them. So having prepared a number of offences for our court session, we can simply jump through these in roughly the order they come through in court, and that will load the Magistrates Court sentencing guidelines with the specific offence that we've selected within favourites. And we can skip through the next offence or the previous facing page. Okay, so that's jumped to the first offence. Jumping to the second offence would load the offence guideline at the next specific page for that offence, and so on and so forth. So that's really how all the favourites work, but they also work across any of your other indexes. So if you had a particular reason to look at fine bands, or perhaps low earnings, or so on and so forth, those can be added also into your favourites. So there's two explanatory materials added into favourites. They're then available within the application. Okay, so that's really favourites, and that extends through to bench books, into pronouncements, so adult court. Perhaps you're doing a community order with community order requirement. Your favourites could then include those two particular items, community order, and you can then scroll through to the following pages for the community order requirements. So back to the core application. We also have a number of bespoke tools that are used on the magistrate's bench, and these are, going through them in order, firstly the fines calculator, and this at the top of the fine calculator gives you the upper limits for the fine for an offence. So if we did go back to a particular index, if we went to an affray, and we can check at the top of the offence, this particular offence, when tried summarily, is level 5 fine or 6 months. So you have there the little bit of data that tells you a fine for this offence could not go above currently £5,000. Last for 2012 will change that to unlimited, but that hasn't happened yet. So the fine calculator allows you to select the band for an offence. If it's an early guilty plea with a third discount, it could be quarter or 10% on the steps of the court, or not guilty. It allows you to set the court costs. So, for example, 85 for court costs, or you could type your own value in there. Select whether it's a per week, per month income, and we'll work it out between those three figures. So if I enter an annual salary of £56,000 for a high income earner, we can just check what that is per month and then per week. Okay, so if we're dealing with a high income offender with a third discount on a band A fine, we know that the fine is going to work out 10% of 360 gives us a victim surcharge of £36. If we were to change that to, let's put that in again, £56,000, I'll just reset the fine calculator on a per month basis on a C-band fine, and we do an add fine to that. You can see the victim surcharge is recalculated at 10% of 400, so it's £40. Just put our cost back on there. And finally, we give you the option of mitigating or aggravating an offence. So if we were looking at a band B speeding, for example, we could mitigate or aggravate that offence and that fine. So that gives us a different fine after plea for an aggravation of that offence. Again, victim surcharge has stayed the same because we're taking victim surcharge on the highest fine, and that is based on an offence committed after the 1st of October. So that's the sentencing guidelines fines calculator. Then across from that, we then offer additional tools for processing speeding. So if you have a speeding offence of 39 over 40, we give you that 39 over 40. National guideline of 3 points, and we've put some proportionality into here to suggest as you go over that band, the national guideline is as broad as a coach, 4 to 6 points, or disqualify 7 to 28. And we've suggested 4 points as we skip through those bands. So that's a really quick way to get through a speeding court and get those correct band penalties and points for those speeding offences. And just clicking the back button here just gives us some useful information about national sentencing guidelines with reference to fixed penalties, and just some information there wish to reference. We then have excess alcohol, drive or attempt to drive, and the top offence is an automatic disqualification based on those breath, blood or urine readings, and excess alcohol in charge, that's with the keys in the car but not driving. We have anything from 10 points through to consider disqualification. Next across, we just have some driver disqualification dates, and this is for a 12-month disqualification. It is a 3-month reduction discount in disqualification for successful completion of a rehabilitation course. As that moves to 13 months or more, it becomes 1 week per 1 month of disqualification. So 13 weeks is 91 days. And if you're dealing with an interim disqualification from last week, your disqualification date should be from a prior date of that court hearing. And you can click this link, or that link, to get through to the specific items here to do with disqualification. And we are following these national guidelines for the calculation of a disqualification discount for the rehabilitation course. Okay, so back to the remainder of the tools. We have back on sentencing guidelines. The next one over is overweight fine calculator. There's two elements to this offence. There's the overweight vehicle, and then there's one or many overweight axles. So, for example, we could have a owner-driver over 3.5 tons with an overloaded vehicle of, say, 22%. That will be the first charge. We can add that as the total weight, and then there'll be one or many charges for each overweight axle. And this is where we can get some fairly impressive fines because of the distinct commercial advantage in overloading a vehicle, which is part of the offence. And we have your buttons here for the appropriate victim surcharge for overweight vehicles, and your options to add a fine or to type in a fine amount. So that's a quick look at the overweight vehicle calculator. Next across, we just have a list of adjournment dates. We've taken this through to 20 weeks. Is that enough? I'm not too sure. We also offer community order completion dates, which are based on 12 months or 3 months from today's date, and that's the date of the completion of the order. We also have a list of available courts, and we're trying very much to keep this up to date with any information you send through to us. So if we scroll down to Warwickshire's finest at Leamington Spa, we have a quite attractive courthouse. We've got the postal address, we've got the opening times, and some contact details for that particular court. If your court listing is incorrect, or you know that a court has closed or changed, please do let us know, and even drop us a photo. We'll include that into the application. And finally, just for reference, we include the guideline fines. So that's an updated version of what's in your out-of-date pronouncements guide. And just a couple of other tools. You've got access to our website for support. You've got some help on the application. And finally, back on functions, you've also got the ability just to search by term. So if I want to find out where the zebra crossing offence is, I can find it there quickly. Or have I got any information on metal theft? I could just enter metal and find something detailed within the CPS legal guidelines. Okay. So that is a quick introduction to sentencing guidelines for Windows, supporting Windows 7, Vista, XP, Windows 7 and 8.